Well, welcome to tonight's live stream here on YouTube. Thanks for joining. I see Rob Sims in the comments. Fear Not Farm, that'll probably be Dakota. Bodie Fenton, Lucky Dog, I think that's Mark Munkris, and Rick Hicks are in here so far with Fast Draw. Good to see y'all. Thanks for joining. As always, we're going to talk about cattle and crops a little bit, and tonight's main focus is on deer. Whitetail deer season is right here in the last week of gun season in Oklahoma. Gonna wait for a couple more to get in here. There is Lucky Dog, gives a thumbs up. Dakota, I'm gonna read what he says and then we'll probably take off. When you find these deer, how many of them go beyond 200 yards? I tracked a gut shot deer last Sunday. It only went about 180 yards. So Dakota, most of the people who have called me, Blake Cottrell's in here. Hello, Blake. Good to see you. Most of the people who's called me about the drone deer recovery so far, they basically told me they made a shot, they hit the deer, some of them knocked it down, some of them just were a little bit unsure of their shot. They found a little bit of blood. They didn't go in too far, maybe 30 to 50 yards. So on those deer that I've helped recover, I put the drone in the air, go up to 250, 300 foot, scan an area. A lot of times I see their deer within the first couple of minutes. If you're out there 10 minutes, that kind of seems like a long one, and I start losing a little bit of hope. But back to your question, 50 to 100 yards. And I usually pick them up within the first few minutes of being in the air. Trying to think. There's been two now that I haven't found the deer for the people. One of those deer was 2 miles away. One of them was last night, unfortunately, and I feel terrible whenever I don't find the deer. But most of the time, when somebody walks in there, the wounded deer is still pretty close. But because of them walking in and doing a little bit of noise and activity, I think they push all the other deer out of the area, and it is plumb easy to find with that drone. Now, about 50% of those deer have still been alive. About 50% of them have already expired. If they're alive and we're flying at night, I just tell them, hey, you got to walk in there in the morning, check it out. If they're dead, I show them right where they're at and they walk in. A few of them have been in the daylight. If it's cloudy, the drones work good, but if that sun's up good and bright, everything's hot and the thermal doesn't want to work right. I want to hit just a little bit on some crops. This was about a week and a half ago right here south of Ames, cotton. I went down there to work on some fence so that I could turn cattle out on one of my farms. This was a neighbor's cotton. I do not know a stinking thing about cotton. I thought it was a pretty cool picture, so I snapped a picture of it. A day or two later, whenever I was down there, they had harvested the cotton. They rolled it up in these huge round bales. Once again, I don't know anything about cotton. If you guys do, let me know. I tried to make some inquiries about it, and it sounds like those round bales, they only put about 8 of them per trailer, and I was hearing they might weigh as much as 6,000 per round bale. Internet said that it was worth a 63 to 64 cents a pound. So if those bells weighed 6,000 pounds, about $3,600 per bale, and they was hauling 8 of them at a time out on the trailers. Yes, Dakota, it looked thick to me also. If anybody knows anything about cotton, don't be scared to jump in here. Let me know. Turned some more steers out. This was this afternoon out on the rye pasture. Probably some 600 to 650 pound steers. Everybody might notice there the couple speckled parks that I've got. The rest is pretty much Angus genetics. Got a Charolais or two, and sometimes got a red one mixed in. But did turn some more cattle out on the rye pasture. Those were some home raised calves. Also over in Garfield County. The deer eat the cotton in the summertime. I suppose that's whenever the plant is green, Dakota? Is whenever they're eating the cotton, the deer? Turned some more cows out. They'd been on the grass. You know, we got a late freeze in the last part of October. You can see here the greenery looks pretty good there on the scenery. So I finally let these cows out on the grass. Most of these cows was late summer calving. Some of them was real early fall. So their babies are pretty good size, but letting the cows out. There's the Charolais cow, Charolais baby. That's the biggest one of the bunch. It was actually a late July calf. Market report. I did talk to Gary Reed down to OKC West. Cattle market report. You can see here starting at the top, 456 pound steer calves bring $560 a pound. I didn't run the calculator on that, but that's going to be up in their $2,300, $2,400 pretty easy range. Second set there, 535, $450 a pound. Third set, 324 pounders, bring $610 a pound. So that's going to be up in a close to $2,000 for a 324 pounder. The next set weighed 501, bring $480 a pound. That's going to be $2,400 range right there. Go clear down to the bottom. You see 900 pounders, bringing $325 to $325. So that's about $2,900 a head. And those calves are selling for in the $2,000 to $2,400. Gary told me the market was back up about $30 a hundredweight this week on those light calves. And the 8 weights, 9 weights, it was back up as much as $8 and $9 a pound, or for 100 pounds, I'm sorry there. Here was some of the heifers, comparable weights, 479, bring 445. That's $445 per every 100 pounds they weighed. 550 pounders there towards the middle. There's some bringing $4 to $4.25 a pound. If you scroll clear down to the bottom, there's some 899 pounders. Bring almost $3 a pound. So you can see the markets have gained some back. Like I told Gary, I hope President Trump doesn't do much with Argentina that affects us. And Gary's words was, well, as long as he doesn't get out there and broadcast what they're wanting to do, it probably wouldn't affect us. Dakota, you said you had them about 400 pounds, but unvaccinated, unweaned, uncastrated. Wonder what they would bring. Don't have any working pins right now, so that's how they'd be. Dakota, on a normal, I'm going to go back to that. Hit the wrong button there. Those have all been 70 days weaned. I'm sorry, 30, 70, 90 days on all those weaned calves. On a normal time period, you can about take 20 cents off per 100 or per pound. So that'd be $20 per 100. Looks like the 535 pounders were not weaned. They bring $450. There's not much difference in them and the long weaned ones at 90 days. Now I realize that's a different comparison on pounds there, but I bet there's not a whole lot of difference right now, Dakota. Maybe 20 to 30 cents a pound at most. Hello there, Sims Family Channel. Glad y'all are tuning in. I'm going to talk about a Sims buck. I've got quite a few different bucks to showcase here tonight. Going to start out with Mark Munkris, local here. He'd been telling me about some bucks that were coming in, and I loaned him one of my cameras. Told him to get out there. You can see he's got a little water source there, and he's got a little golden areas. It's corn scattered out on the ground. But Mark took my cameras. He filmed him a buck. He was able to successfully harvest a buck as well, and got a little experience there of getting out in the woods with a camera of some sort, mounted it in the stand with him, and took him a nice 11-point buck. Congratulations, Mark. Mark's retired. I enjoy. Hey there, Alan Lacrone. Good to hear you in here. Hope things are going well in Alabama. So there's Mark Munkers's buck, and Mark is retired, lives here in the community, and good older generation man. Always enjoy visiting with him. And while the Sims family's in here, there's Garrett Sims. I believe this is his second buck ever. I think he was using a 223. If my memory's correct, got another picture here of that same buck. Looks like a 9-point to me if I'm not missing anything. Congratulations, Garrett Sims. Nice buck. And I heard that he was setting by himself. Actually, Garrett texted me that morning. He had taken a shot at the buck and thought that he had missed, or thought that he had hit, and wanted me to bring my drone because he couldn't find him. Later sent me a message that he did miss, and he stayed in the stand. And then that evening, I'm not for sure if that's the same buck or not, but got him a nice buck. Congratulations, Garrett. If you're watching in here, let me know if that was the same buck you took a shot at that morning or not. Going on down here, Katie Marlette. I got a call from Reese, which is Katie's husband. They thought they was going to need the drone as well. Before I got there to them, they called me. They said they had already found the buck in the tall grass. Katie was sitting in a stand by herself and sitting in a tripod, made a good shot. Might have told me that one was with a Cannon cow showing. I hadn't seen you on here before. Cannon cow showing. Tell me where you're from if you would. And thanks for joining us. But Katie Marlette with her Oklahoma buck. Going to move on down to a youngster. This is Trevor Keller. Come up here from Texas, hunted with some family members. And that's he and his father. He shot his first buck ever, a 2-by-1 on the buck. Congratulations there, Trevor. Going to move on down to Baker a Day. If y'all remember about a month ago, back in the youth season here in Oklahoma, Baker had taken a nice buck. I don't remember how many points it was, but it was a heck of a buck. His dad said Baker got a day off from school right here, and he went and harvested him a doe. Of course, his dad was sitting with him, and they also went on a bird hunt that day as well. Cannon, thanks for answering. That's Cannon Edwards from Fairview, Oklahoma. I heard that Cannon bagged himself a nice buck also. I don't know what to think about these kids skipping school, going on a whitetail hunt, but if they're spending time with mom or dad in the deer stand, that sounds like a good deal to me. Cannon, congratulations on your buck. Pretty good spread on that feller. I heard that you sat all day, didn't have much luck, and at 5 p.m. that night, you guys grunted him in. 70-yard shot with the 223. So congratulations there, Cannon. That's a great buck. Let me know, have you shot one before, or was that your first one? Mike Burge. Mike is an older, retired gentleman. Went to church with Mike for years. That was your first buck, Cannon. Great job, young man. I don't remember how many years old you are. I've seen you with your dad a few times, but that's an outstanding buck. Congratulations. That's worth missing school for, if you ask me. Mike Burge right here. Mike's a retired man. I've spent a lot of years in church with Mike, and he and his family moved up by Ponca City area. Mike does some fishing trips for people, and he didn't hunt too far from me and harvested this buck. You don't see how big it is until you look at this next photo. I was counting about 15 or 16 points on there myself, and he very well might have more than that. Lopsided on one side, but a big, heavy buck right there. Congratulations, Mike. I seen that Blake Cottrell was in here watching earlier. I'm looking for Tatum's buck right here. There she is, Tatum Cottrell with a nice Oklahoma buck. And Tatum was using a 6.5. And my understanding was from her dad, Blake, she had been using his guns, and the stocks and the scopes and everything weren't quite the right eye relief that she needed, and got her a 6.5, probably a youth model, which helps fit him a little bit better. And she had it on a tripod, sitting in a stand with her dad, and dropped her a really nice buck. So congratulations there, Tatum, on a nice buck with the 6.5. Going to jump on over to one of her cousins. This is Wiley. You guys might remember Wiley Titus was in here. Was it last week I had him in here? And then Wiley made Lacey Swope's trail cam page in Oklahoma City News. So congratulations, Wiley. You're going to be famous before the month's over. You already are. Neighbor of mine, Charlie Thompson, took a good 8-pointer. That buck's pretty heavy. The picture Charlie sent me, I couldn't quite get to fit in the screen, but a heavy, mature buck. Charlie got himself a good one. I've got a Whitetail. This is a YouTube channel, Whitetail Rookie, and that is Mike Tyron. He's a bow hunter, put together a YouTube channel. I saw it this morning. Kind of chatted with him through the comments, told him I'd put it on here. If you guys want to see some more deer content, you might give a Whitetail Rookie Mike Tyron a subscribing there on him. I'm going to get back here and read some of these comments. Cannon says, me and Wiley are 10 and go to school together. So you and Wiley, congratulations, boys. Looks like you're getting some people in the comments telling you, good job, you'll always remember that. Rick Hicks says you'll stay hooked. Sims says that was not the same buck, Garrett Sims, but the guy you were sitting with me in the stand when you shot that buck, killed the buck the next morning. Okay. All right. So moving right on down, we've got some more deer to show here in the comment or here in the video. Bodie Fenton. I saw he was in the comments, and Bodie harvested a mature buck right there. Looked like an 8-point from that picture, but that one he sent me, you can see the brow tine split, and he had a point broken off the right side on the main beam. So would have been a 10, but had a point broke off. Congratulations to Bodie. Bodie hunts over towards the Tulsa area. Earlier, Dakota was asking me about my drone and how far some of these deer go. The next one that I'm going to show is a portion of a drone video that I went out on, and I had the drone filming while in the air. Young lady had shot a buck, and I don't remember what time of the day. It was in the morning they shot it. They contacted me maybe midday, and I recommended we wait till dark. And because of the sunlight with the drones, not wanting to work very well on the thermal. So I've got 2 different shots here. This is whenever I located the buck, and he was, if I remember right, he was about 600 foot from where the stand was. And you can see there he was turning around, licking his side. That was in the thermal, everything I've got on there. Those trees were still hot, by the way. But that buck is laying down underneath the tree. I did maneuver around the tree and turn my spotlight on. Late to the show, Michael, but you got to get back to see this week's harvest. Yeah, I've showed several of them on here so far. We are on Casey Seeger's buck right here. I had moved around the tree and turned the spotlight on. Just about the time I was filming this, it was funny. Casey had the perfect wording for that branch that seemed to be in the way from every angle. We could not see the buck's antlers very much because there'd be a limb or a branch in the way all the time, and we were trying to see where he was hit. Basically, I ended up telling him tomorrow morning, if I was you, I'd go in there at about 8 in the morning and walk in there. Hopefully he'll be expired, but he these deer don't seem too bothered by the drone. The ones that are hit, you can get down pretty low on. The ones that are healthy and alive, 100-foot range, they start to notice the drones there. 60, 70-foot range, they're ready to leave. And they don't run out of the area, but they'll just move 50 or 60 foot from the drone, and they're not injured. But the injured deer have all been laying down that I've found. But there's Casey with her buck. She was using a 6.5 as well. I'm glad she was able to get it found and complete her harvest for the year. Casey and her husband both were there. Seemed like very good people. It was about a 20-mile drive for me, and I'm glad to be able to get out there and help them. Michael, I hope you got to see some of those deer. I had pretty much worked my way through them. If I might go right back through things, make sure I didn't skip any. I don't think I mentioned about what I like to eat out of the deer. Right here's some liver and onions. I tried to show you guys this last week, and I couldn't find it. Liver and onions and backstrap. And of course the rest of the deer we grind up, and I've told you before, we use as much meat as we can out of them. And my wife doesn't eat beef because she's allergic to it, so therefore we take blue and gold sausage and mix that sausage with the ground deer and use it just like hamburger. We also raise beef, so we've got a plenty of it around. Going to flip right back through some of these deer pictures. Michael said he was joining in late. There's Mark Munkers with his, Garrett Sims with his. Here's another picture of Garrett's buck. Katie Marlette. Trevor Keller took his first buck ever. Baker a day, he had already killed a big buck on the season. He took him a doe right there. I'm jealous of these kids getting to miss school to go out and get on the deer hunt. There's Mike Burge with that picture doesn't make him look as big as he is, but that's an absolute monster buck, non-typical right there. Bodie Fenton with the buck over by Tulsa. Tatum Cottrell with her first buck of the year. I know Tatum shot one last year. If Blake's still watching on here, or Tatum's in the comments, let me know how many she's taken. And this is Wiley, who made it on the news again. And we're back to Cannon Edwards. First deer, 70 yards, shot with the 223. And the Whitetail rookie YouTube account right there, Mike Tyrone. Check him out, guys. It's free to subscribe to anybody's channel. It helps out. A lot of the times YouTube doesn't want to put somebody's content out that is related about guns, related about deer hunting and that sort of stuff. So the more that you guys hit the thumbs up button and the more you hit the subscribe and try and watch those videos for people, it takes a lot of work to put these hunting videos out. And Charlie Thompson, one of my neighbors, took this nice 8-point also, Michael. And I think about the time you joined in here, we were on the Casey Seeger buck with the drone, and there was some of the spotlight footage with the drone. These deer, some of them get them bedded underneath these trees, and that ground looks bare, but it was grass that was 3 to 4 foot tall underneath just about everywhere. So those the thermal doesn't show any grass, but you can see that tree was still hot there. Yes, lots of success in the past few weeks here, Michael. I want to let you guys know I chose to hunt with my 30-30. That's the Henry Golden Boy. I did mount the scope on it. I got told this week on Facebook. Since I put a scope on it, I had lost my man card. I don't know if that's all true or not, but I was able to harvest a buck. Was glad to do it. Also took down a couple does. It'll take me a few days at the earliest on editing and putting together some of my footage, but I'll have a new video out about the Oklahoma gun season using the Henry 30-30. Took down a couple coyotes as well, but hope you all will click on that whenever it's out and ready. I'll go ahead and show you my buck right there. With the Henry, buck was just a mainframe 6-point. Had some small points branched off towards the bases. had some towards the brow tines, had forks, and then out there towards the end. So he actually ended up having 11 points. But that was, I knew, I didn't have any idea he had that many points whenever I shot him. I just knew that he was a larger buck that had both sets of the antlers, and most everything I had been seeing had been spikes and 4 points and some does, and I had already taken a couple of does. Sims family says you think someone's just jealous. I don't know for sure what that means. Rob says nice buck and nice setup. Thank you, Rob. Dakota with the Fear Not Farm says you like deer liver, but you've had some that you couldn't stomach. So my wife, there's no way she's going to try and stomach it. We even eat the heart. The boys and I enjoy the deer heart. Cook it like a steak. Just don't cook it. Don't get it too well done, or it's not very good. But a little bit. We like it all. But the wife, she's not going to indulge in it if it isn't a steak, or if it isn't, the backstrap, the tenderloin, some part of the steak. We'll make some roast out of some of them, and we grind a lot of it, just like I had previously said. I hope I didn't miss anything in the comments. If you guys or gals watching have some footage, have some pictures that you want me to share next week, let me know. I'm sorry that with this one got put on Thursday. I've been telling everybody Wednesday night at 8 o'clock, but I got called out on a drone recovery last night. You might have seen, you might not be able to see. See the hat I've got on, Oklahoma Okie. Got a cow skull there. That is credit to Bodie Fenton. Thank you, Bodie, for sending me the hat. He also sent me a blaze orange hat with a little bit different design on it. It says Oklahoma Okie with some whitetail antlers. What brand of scopes am I putting on my gun? Bodie's asking right now. What scopes are you putting on your gun? Brands of scopes. That particular Henry had a Hawk scope. Hawke, Hawk scope. Friend of mine who used to make and sell trail cameras. Unfortunately, that business went under, and he's a good guy, Cameron Durr, and he went to work for Hawk Scopes, promoting their scopes here in the United States. So I purchased one of them. It's a good clear scope. It's a 3x9. I believe it was $160. Bodie, I have numerous guns, and that's the only Hawk scope that I've got. The Leopold scopes that I have, I've got several on different calibers from 25-06 up to 300 Win Mag, and those Leopold scopes, Varix 3, I believe is what the majority of those are. They'd probably be the best scope that I've got on the guns. But buy one that's in everybody's price range and get out there and use it. That 30-30 that I was using, and I've got some different videos out about sighting guns in. I'm fixing to get out there and do some more. And before Christmas, I'll have another gun or two sighted in that I'll probably use on these holiday doe seasons, the week of Christmas in between. I don't even know. Christmas is on 25th, of course, but there's always a holiday doe season, and I'll get out there and take another doe or two. Might even take one with a compound bow before then. Alan, glad to know things are going good. Hopefully the deer hunting goes good for you down there in Alabama coming up soon. I don't think I'm going to get to come down there this year, Alan, so I'll do a rain check on it for next year. Hope that answered your questions about the guns there, Bodie. And once again, thanks for the cap. Enjoyed them. I'm glad you come up with the idea. I like them. I'll wear them around. Back to that 30-30, and this is for anybody sighting a gun in. An old man told me whenever I was a kid, sight a gun in at 30 yards and then move on out there to 100. I thought that he actually meant zero it at 100, and that is not that. If that's what he meant, I'm going to disagree with it a little bit, but I sighted that Henry in at 30 yards. I was an inch low. That puts me pretty much dead on at 100 yards. And the reason I'm going to put my finger up here, pretend like this is a scope, and then pretend like this is the gun barrel. That scope is about 1.5 to 2 inches high. So somewhere the bullet and the crosshair of the scope have to meet. And whenever those two meet, if you got them dead on at 30 yards, then you know that that bullet's eventually going to continue to rise. But if you have it, and if you have it 2 inches low, you know you're never going to get it to zero. And I hope that's making sense on what I'm saying. Scope crosshairs, center of the bullet, center of the barrel. So whenever that bullet leaves and you make it come up to meet the crosshairs, I'm sighting most of my guns into where they're about a half inch to an inch low at 30 yards. We get to 100 yards, they'll be pretty much dead on, might be an inch or two low or an inch or two high, depending on the caliber. The faster trajectories seem to be a little bit high. That 30-30 was dead on. So I've tried sighting them in dead on. I tried a 308 at 30 yards dead on. I moved it back to 100 and I was 6 inches high. If I put that 308 an inch low at 30, it's dead on right there at 100 yards. So some of you guys who are gun hunters, if you've ever had trouble sighting one in, you might keep that in mind. Dakota used to be the budget scope towards just absolute junk. But anymore, if all you can forward is a $130 scope, typically it'll do the job. Always tell people we don't have to get crazy with your gear. I agree completely, Dakota. The last several years, every deer that I took with a rifle was iron sights, basically inside of 50 yards. You guys know whenever it comes rifle season, you kind of like to be able to extend on out there. That's why I put the scope on the gun this year, just in case I had them farther than 50 yards. I'm as ethical as we can get. I love the deer, and I sure don't want to wound one. So I didn't want to shoot at a deer 50, 60, 70, 80 yards with iron sights and risk wounding one. But I knew if I put a scope on it, I would just keep my range in there for 100 yards or so and really be able to help out in case I didn't have something close. But I had fun with the 30-30. Going to bring a round of ammo up here. It was 150 grain. Hopefully you can see the tip of that thing. It is a silver tip. So this box of ammo, to my best knowledge, was made somewhere in between 1940 and 1960. I was told just to keep the box, keep the ammo, because it would be worth something. But I tell you what, it meant something to me to use it on a pair of coyotes and used it on a pair of does and used it on a buck this gun season. Going to read what. Remember that boar sighting, Michael. Yep. Dakota also says Nikon Spot On Optics used to have an app on the Play Store. Can't find it. I do have a Nikon scope. It's on my wife's 25-06. But they still have their own website up. You can play with your height over bore, specific caliber. Look at that. Yeah. Bullet path and what's best to zero. Dakota, I'm glad you said that. That's something I don't even think about. I don't really ever read those charts. I get out there and I experience on my own. And I typically on these smaller calibers, I'm 150 or less on the grain. My 270s at 130. A 25-06 is at 100. Of course, the 223s, they're clear down in the 55 or 60 grain range. And then the 300s that I've got and the 30-06s, I'm shooting 180 grains with them. But I haven't even been deer hunting with them for years. But a lot of deer season left. If you guys haven't got one yet, remember about the cattle I was just turning out. This might not make sense to everybody, but right here, cattle going out on the cropland. That cropland has timber on it that we haven't hunted. I'm not the only guy in the country turning cattle loose on farms that the majority of it is cropland with some timber. What'll happen whenever guys are doing this just like I am, those deer that are held up in some of that timber and they're enjoying that greenery, they will get pushed out of some of that timber just because the cattle and the deer don't get along quite as well. And that deer will move over there. Some of y'all are feeding deer. And yes, Rick, that's true. That works great on vampires with their silver tip and werewolves. So I'm ready for them. I've got about 15 of these left after I think I've actually got 14 of them left. I missed one coyote once. But what I'm trying to say about that deer hunting, you'll get somebody turning cattle out darn near on every farm that's got wheat or rye pasture for the winter. And that timber that might just be 5 or 10 or 15 acres or a grass field too that's attached to it and got a little depression in it, got some timber down in there. Those deer are not going to want to be with those cattle. And as much, some of them will put up with it, some of them won't. But if you're still doing a little bit of feeding, expect to see some more deer showing up on your farm in December. If you've still got an archery tag, and it's still not too late to fill your tag here in this gun season, but be prepared because you could have something good moving in. We get last year towards Christmas time period, we had 4 or 5 bucks on one farm that we didn't have any cattle on, and that farm did not have any of those bucks on it during the late October, early November time period. So those bucks basically all just moved in because of guys like me turning cattle out on other farms, and it just changes the behavior of the whitetails a little bit. And you never know how much activity one family's going to do on a farm also. They come in, they stir around, they scare some deer off their place. They might find that they've got pretty good eating on your spot and take up residence there for a while. Some of us get pictures of those deer in July and August, and we plan on taking that deer in October, and that deer's gone by then. Remember, folks, some of those deer have their home range in the summer, and it is completely different than the home range they have in the fall. So don't be alarmed by it. Just know that you might get some more moving in. Some of those deer that were there in the summer might show back up in January. I've found shed antlers off bucks that we didn't get any time throughout basically mid-October through late December. They were gone. Rut activity picked up. They went to looking for does, and those were bucks. Their home range was on our places in the summer months and shortly into season, but then they split. So if you guys haven't already hit that like button, I'd appreciate it if you do. If you got some friends that are interested in this kind of content, always remember you can hit that share button. And if you haven't subscribed, I'd appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel. We'll be back here next Wednesday night. And Rick, I'm going to keep some of these. I'm going to keep some of these silver tip for vampires and werewolves. You never know when you might need them. Thank you all for commenting. Hope you hit that like button, and we